we principally look at things objectively, rather than having a bad view of where we come politically, how we support politically. For me, looking at objectively and learning some of the things that we needed to understand before we go out for public consultation and even finally discuss it. So I have learned a lot of new things through his presentation. Number one, using his own presentation, page 4, what is called condition precedents. And in his communication, it says communication authority regularly and impulsively extended condition precedent to the buyer. I believe this buyer is Vodafone, which has resulted in losses of around 80 billion on renewable licenses. My question to you, Nyoro, is could we therefore then, or you have evidence to table before this committee, these minutes of extension, who gave them the minutes of extension, and for what purpose? Is it connected to the sale of 15%? It means there is a lot who extend for this condition to votable. It means there was some boardroom decision that for us to sell this 15%, there is some underlying waivers which the Kenyan government, through the taxpayers, will lose about 80 billion. We need evidence from you, and it may even ask the chairman us again to call CEO who appeared before us here yesterday, that this give us evidence of boardroom decisions that led to this loss of money through giving waivers to what is called network facility providers for 15 to 20 to 25 years. These are serious matter, Ndindi, Nyoro, that it may even negate the entire process of, because it will reduce the revenue that we are thinking of raising about 204 billion. Because if there are these concessions, it will be a very bad deal. And then you also say in number 12, in a nutshell, the country has lost. When you say has lost, it means already gone. Revenue to over 70 billion. You know, you talked about 100, but in your presentation, in your own words here, has lost to over 70 billion on conditions precedent alone. That means from the sale, the expected sale of 15%, which you are intending to raise 2 or 4 billion, if you subtract 70 billion, you'll remain with around 135 billion. So giving the whole sale to look like a scam or something that does not give us the correct value. So way forward on this matter. If you have evidence, table before this committee. If you don't have evidence, then we need to seek clarification from CA to give us this particular matter. 2, there's something that you skipped on Ethiopian market. Does the shareholding of Safaricom here in Kenya different from the franchise that is being, do you have some different shareholders of Safaricom Ethiopia and Safaricom Kenya? These are mind-boggling questions that we need to understand, so that are we selling therefore shares in Safaricom Kenya, or are we selling this 15% including the shareholding in Ethiopia? This is something that you raised here, and it requires some understanding. Again, in page 5, just like what my colleague has said about Mopitelea, if you are able to see something that we can Google, that at the time of listing Safaricom, the shareholding of government was 35. The shareholding of Vodacom was 35. And at the time of what is called this paper that we have before us, it is 40. At what stage? And then we are assuming that this 5% has been acquired by Vodacom. When did this happen? When did this transaction of acquiring 5%? Because the sessional paper that we have is that Vodacom already holds 40. At what stage was 5% acquired by Vodacom? If you have evidence of at a time when Vodacom decided to buy Mobitelea, then it is also good for this committee to have it, because it means this Vodacom is a big animal that continues to acquire other people inside, small shareholders, and they may even acquire anybody else remaining. And it is a foreign franchise. I'm using your notes very carefully. I don't want to go outside this. Lastly, Chairman, tell us something about, this sessional paper has a timeline that says it takes 28 days from sitting of Parliament. It means if we start sitting on 4th, by 28, if we shall not, by 4th of March, if we shall not have concluded, it is deemed to have approved itself. And therefore, who will take the shares, the dividends? The government may lose dividends to Vodacom that has worked for the whole year, and when it is left with 10 days, the shares changes hands to someone else. Can you tell us about this shareholding, the dividends of the current fiscal year of Safaricom, how it will go? Because how can I lose all the milk of my cow, which I've worked for it for the whole year, just at the wee hours of exchange? Tell us something. You did not say something about it. And finally, tell us something about when Safaricom PLC is being sold, and when the shares, 15% shares of Safaricom is being sold, how does the entire franchise, the value which was at 2021, 1.8 trillion, how will this sale affect the assets of the entire ownership of Safaricom when it will be owned by a foreigner at 55%? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Mheshimiwa Makilap, if you could switch off your mic. Makilap, switch off your mic, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. Like my colleagues, allow me to also take this moment to congratulate our senior colleague in the Parliament. I regard him as senior, being my first term in Parliament, and he's serving his second term. And the way he's with whole heart or passionately following up the issues of the country and for Kenyans. Thank you so much. Chair, from the onset, introduction of the presentation by Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, there is a funny statement I've underlined there, that he has referred this transaction as inferior transaction. That implies from your presentation, you trust out completely. So in fact, like the question Maklab is asking, my thing according to you is we should reject this thing outright before even the end of that time. And for us to be able to arrive there, Chair, I'll be able to put some few questions, and don't mind Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, you will find some of our concerns will oscillate from what you're putting. Probably you might need to put it better than you already put it. The issue of valuation, this has been a question, a critical question that every other person here has been asking. Even the Cabinet Secretary, we were able to ask him, and he laid his foundation, of course, bringing from the point of view of Section 87A of the FM Act that recently was amended, which gave powers to the Cabinet Secretary to be able to initiate such transactions outside the state-owned Enterprises Act that we also passed in Parliament. Picking from there, he also, from his presentation, he seems to have relied on that provision to negotiate with an existing shareholder in Safaricom and that is why they arrive at 4. But I like your thinking outside, because looking at this, it looks like you have relied so much on relative valuation, where you are comparing the market, the behavior of the market. I would wish to know from your knowledge, being expert, combining the intrinsic value, the relative valuation, asset-based valuation, what would be the ideal? Because we are trying to look at the real position of what Kenyans should be able to get, vis-a-vis what we think Treasury has given us the best. Because for any layman person, you will minus 34, minus the current 27, definitely you are making a premium of 7 shillings. I mean, for everyone, for every layman. But from your acumen in relative, which I regard it as an ideal market situation. What if this approach by National Treasury is shifted, like from your request, we remove it from the boardroom negotiation, as we called it, and put it to the market, either to the secondary market, Nairobi Stock Exchange, or even invited that it's possible to go outside NSE and go to London Stock Exchange, or New York Stock Exchange for that purpose. What is a certainty? Especially remember, the offer of this is done by the government. And anyone would know when by the time the government is coming for it, like the foundation of this, the cabinet secretary has passionately expressed the need of divesting on this one, so that we're able to look for resources or find resources to finance the budget that cannot be sustained by the ongoing borrowing, where it has reached the limit. And I've been following you always, you've been telling Kenyans where we've gone high in terms of our borrowing, that it is no more sustainable to keep borrowing. But here is the budget. Here is the budget deficit. I know you've been the chairman of our budget and appropriation, that this country has to run. It has to finance education. It has to finance water. It has to finance the basic social and infrastructural needs. That is why the National Treasury and the government of Kenya has reached out and say, let us exercise what is within us, the assets we have, generate revenue, invest this revenue on these going concern investments, and realize the value later, and of course reduce on the cost of borrowing. Looking at these valuations and the options we have, you've given us that there's no need to hurry. Well, maybe Cabinet Secretary will tell us and I think Chair, looking at this one, we will still need to invite back the National Treasury, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, so that some of the questions left by this stakeholder and others who have come here would be able to help us. But from your own understanding, so that Kenyans, our presentation here might draw Kenyans to feel like what is happening here is wrong, like this thing, as you call it, inferior, is the worst. Kenyans will begin to develop those inciting feelings, and we might, in future, we might be seeing the reactions here and there, where we lose even the real cause of why we are doing this one. Chair, the issue of KCB agent, and which it has got my attention, I would really beseech, because this is a committee of the National Assembly, and our honorable member understands that this is more of a quasi-judicial sitting. And whatever is court hears, whatever is being presented here, it calls for that evidence, so that even the report we are doing, we have to inform. We are duty bound as this joint committee to inform the National Assembly to make the right decision, so that we don't make half-baked. That's why I want to run away from what Chair is saying. Mheshimiwa, you go and you will provide in future some evidence. The information from now is far much more better, because we are a few committee we can sit. If we can get evidence around this, so that it doesn't look like we are just posing, we are troubleshooting and leaving the fire rolling outside there with all proper information. With the respect of this committee, I would call on the information of this one. There is a question of integrity of this buyer. This buyer, in the earlier behavior, which McLeod has asked, and even me, I was not aware, I'm just listening today, that the shares which were owned by Mobitelea was silently moved. And then it means we have questions to CMA to tell us. CMA was here, we need to call them back and explain to us this one. And there's another statement you've made that there was there's a shareholder who immobilized or ordered. To me, it sounds like economic crime action. And therefore, we have questions on CMA. If possible, because you have expert on this one, so that it doesn't sound like a by the way statement or any other political statement, I would request through the chair that our stakeholder, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, to provide this evidence. The issue, so that I don't repeat what you said much on this, the information on the dealers, that's a big thing. It can be a breaking news that the National Treasury indeed never initiated or they never participated in that boardroom. They had the figures, other imaginary faces who were there sitting down, that we need to know how were they contracted. Were they given express contracted role and responsibility to act on behalf of the government, other than the KCB being what we call the transaction advisor? We have another people from the information you have. And then lastly, this information about Communication Authority of Kenya, that without the board, management sat down and gave express authority to discount what ought to have come to build our economy for the sake of person again who is going to buy. So in any case, we will calculate the loss in terms of value you are giving us, that we are losing. Instead of getting the 390, we are getting 200. So already there's a 190 loss, and then there's another 100 loss in terms of the licenses. So we are losing around 290 billion to get 200 billion. I think your statement initiates that we are actually giving out free, including giving out additional money of around 290 billion. With all this put together, it is wise, and to me it could be prudent, Chair, if we get all this evidence so that this committee can make the right decision to present to the National Assembly and inform the National Assembly to also make the right decision, either to reject it, because you said they don't even need to amend, either to reject it from your point of view or to approve it either way. Thank you.
I think for the rejection and approval, it's for us, and he'll be in the House to do his bit, so I think he should just not respond to that one. Mheshimiwa Oyula?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me also add my voice to this. And I start by thanking Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro for opening up our eyes. I'm particularly very grateful because when I look at some of this information, it reminds me of what I used to think. For instance, Mobitel, you'd want to know when they sold this 5%, and if you can get to know the amount they sold, because that would also encourage the current buyer. If he's the one who bought the Mobitel shares, you'd say, since I bought this at this price, then I think you can still go lower. Chair, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro has told us that when the Safaricom went to Ethiopia, the value of the company, was it shares?
What he's asking is, when you said when Ethiopia when Safaricom invested in Ethiopia, the shares went down.
No, the value
Then so he said the share, not the value.
Yeah, there's the value of the company which went to 1.8 trillion. So I was wondering, would that also help in determining the value of the shares? If it does, what would be the calculation? Chair, this issue of immobilizing the shares, as Mheshimiwa, as I just mentioned, Mheshimiwa Ruto, it borders on criminality because we are not being told the truth. We are told that the shares were being sold at a premium. The market value is 27, getting 34, so they are selling at a premium. It doesn't appear to be having a premium. There must be some cheating somewhere. So possibly you could open up and tell us more about this premium. Is it really there? Or it's just a cover-up? I think we still need more information to guide us. In fact, if this is rejected before the sale is done, then I think the government would benefit more in going to open market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Oyula. I think, Mheshimiwa Ndindi, most of the questions were more or less related. So I'll kindly, because of time also, if you could just be precise kindly, so that we can make progress. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'll do exactly as you guided by being very brief. And you allow me, since Honorable Karuma is here, to only answer of all his questions, only one. When you talk about, I had answered the others, the valuation and the share price. There is no way you can distinguish that, because the valuation, what is called market capitalization, is the sum total of all the shares listed times their market price that day. That's why the market cap of companies keeps on changing. Market cap, what I'm trying to say, does not necessarily communicate the valuation of the company based on the many examples I've given, some that have happened in the last 1 year, like Baburi and Amson, some that have happened in the year 2023 of Rea Pipico, selling in the market at 27.50 and eventually buying the shares at 85 shillings for the same share. So I'm just trying to say, Honorable Chair, it will be a tragedy if Kenya relies on the market in this transaction, because the buyer knows that, and that's why they are capitalizing. So let me go to my brother, Honorable Boni. And I'll attach the same question has been asked, I think, by Honorable Makirab. The money I have listed there we are losing is on condition precedent alone. Condition precedent, as I said, when there is a transaction, there is some informal discussions you have, then you formalize them. It's like when, just using an example, you are selling a house, and me as the buyer, you give me a condition precedent. Me as a seller, I give you a condition precedent that I'm selling you this house in Nairobi because I'm relocating. But any time I'm in Nairobi, I'll be coming, those 2 rooms are for me to occupy. And you sign. So that's the condition precedent. So the condition precedent answering all of us are the conditions the government of Kenya has already agreed to. Not based on anything else, based on the current transaction. As sweeteners for this transaction, the government of Kenya has already given up 50% of NPF license fee alone. Honorable Chair, that is, on one license, we are losing 40 billion Kenya shillings. One license. On a discount, given how? Given only by the management of CA. They actually gave this authorization before the board met. It is just not right.
What's your point of order, Mheshimiwa Kaluma?
Chair, you know, this issue is very serious. First, at page 4, it is indicated we are losing over 80 billion. When you turn over on the same matter, paragraph 12, it is over 70 billion. So we want to be clear on the amount. But what I heard the questioner asking is the evidence of these discounts and the monies that are being lost on renewal of licenses. Where is the evidence of it? And I'm asking this because if there is evidence, then it is huge.
No, that's why I think he hasn't even gone to answer that. He was just giving his view on where. So he hasn't gone to where that he was asked by a member to give evidence if there is. So just allow him to respond, and so that he can get to that question that was asked by the previous member.
Including how the waivers compute to the amount.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Mheshimiwa Ndindi.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Honorable Kaluma also. How Kenya charges licenses is not anything you need to go and look for. It is cast on brick and mortar. It's not anything to negotiate. So it's upon this committee to check the agreement.
I think Mheshimiwa Ndindi, yes,
I
we
go to
made
the
it
next.
clear. And as you said that, and I think one of the Mheshimiwas did allude that we need to call Communication Authority back to the committee to verify on that.
Although, Chair,
Yes.
with due respect
Yes.
to Mheshimiwa Ndindi, since this is already a committee sitting, and he's been also a chair, and he understands the operators of the rest of the committees, I would wish any statement said here, it has more weight. Everyone is following, Kenyans are following. If today we would get that evidence here, more than the way Chair, we will have a reason now to call the other person with the evidence provided by your stakeholder here, so that it doesn't, because they will also come here
I think
and tell us,
Mheshimiwa
call, wait, Chairman, they will come here and tell us, call the person who say to come here. And we will have.
And Mheshimiwa, hold on, let us not go through that route. And Mheshimiwa Boni, allow me, I'm on the floor, please. I'll give you an opportunity, just allow me.
Just a minute.
Mheshimiwa, the chair is on the floor, just allow me, then I will give you.
Point of order, Chair.
What is out of order, Mheshimiwa Boni?
Chair,
And
as I said,
now, that,
the information which Honorable Nyoro is giving us is us to verify it.
I think that's where I was
with
just heading.
various government institutions. So I think let him continue to give
I
us.
think that's what I was heading to Mheshimiwa Boni. What is important, he has given us the information. It's for us as a committee to do the follow-up, so that
Point of
if
order, Chair.
there's nothing out of order, the chair is on the floor, allow me to just, so that we make progress. There's no point of us just going around.
But the chair could be proceeding wrongly, Chair.
How is it?
Just allow me the point of order. Chair, on information Honorable Ndindi is possessed of, he has done a computation and come to a figure of 80 billion, or let me say over 70 billion. And I'm saying this is material. This amount he has written in the memorandum, he must have computed it based on some information. That is the information we are requiring him to evidence. If it is in the instrument, let him tell us under this clause, there has been waiver, the computation was derived this way. Otherwise, Chair, we risk the danger of calling these regulators and they tell you nothing like that has happened. Then it is their word against this. We would have not helped Kenyans if indeed there is something. So could we have something more?
Mheshimiwa Kaluma, just to rephrase it, if Mheshimiwa Ndindi just gave us a document and said, yes, this is the proof, that would not be still good enough. We need to go out there to get the facts. So we cannot just say any document he produces or we ask him to produce will just be the gospel truth. So let's allow him to do that. It is up to the honors on the committee to go and get the information that, so that for us to verify whether what it is fact or is just something that Mheshimiwa, so leave it to the committee. Mheshimiwa Ndindi.
Thank you, Chair. I'll proceed now without revisiting that issue. But I'm available, Chair. I know I have the information that you need. In case you don't get it, I am available.
In case we need more info from you, we'll definitely
Available.
invite you back to the committee.
Thank you very much.
Proceed.
Honorable Boni, in terms of public officers, you asked, it's not transaction advisors I meant. I meant an informal people, individuals. And I can tell you this, Chair, that when the announcement was made of this transaction, the people you saw on TV announcing it, they knew it 2 days before. The people who negotiated, where they traveled, they are not government officials. And that's why I am asking, let them give us. These are the committee that was appointed by the National Treasury to negotiate on behalf of government. So they were not TAs. TA, you remember, a TA is also a resource that you hire as government. So we now go back to the same question. How did you hire these TAs? And especially TAs who have conflict of interest, that they do business with our buyers and they are there negotiating for us as the sellers. Who bought 5% of Mobitelea? It is the current buyer. And if you don't get information, I'll come with it.
Chair.
What's your point of order, Mheshimiwa?
No, it's a point. I'm seeking clarification now. Honorable Ndindi, we are told there is a TA, and we have issues about how the TA was procured. Very fundamental issues as a committee. What if the people you saw speaking were agents of the TA. Would there be a problem there? Because the TA, we are told, is KCB sample. Okay? So what if the people you saw now speaking were people engaged by the TA in the transaction under the agreement?
Honorable Karuba, this is what I mean. In this committee, you have more information you can get than me as an individual. I want to make this in the record. The people you saw of the government from the National Treasury announcing this deal in that December morning, they knew about this transaction, the fine details, 2 days before they appeared on TV. The people who are running this transaction are not government officials. And some of them, they do business with our buyers. So I think that is clear. Secondly, TA, in terms of KCB, it's simple for the committee. Tell the government to give you the agreement they made with KCB. You realize it was after the announcement. So it was not the business of the TA, which is KCB Capital, to come up with the price. So who came up with the price? Because you can't tell us you're hiring KCB Capital today for something you announced a month ago. Then it means they were not in charge of pricing. 5% stake of Mobitelea was bought by our current buyers, proposed buyers. They are the ones who bought. The bigger question should be, as it was asked by Honorable Oyura, very good question, at how much? Because you may realize they can make a very good deal with a private person, but a very bad deal with the government, because the government is amorphous. Second, the other point, those who remember Safaricom IPO, the bigger thing, by that time, Honorable Karuma, you remember, the politics was very toxic. The issue of Mobitelea was bigger than Safaricom IPO. How did it just squeeze itself in? It got itself to our current buyers. Can we trust them now that they are not also making similar deals with the people in power? Honorable Makila, quotation precedent, I talked about it. It is in two ways as you do your due diligence, Chair. One is in terms of waiver. The amount they were promised to pay is half the price they ought to pay. And Honorable Kaluma, when I talk about over 70 billion shillings, there are two licenses I have not calculated. It can go higher. So, quotation precedent, that informal discussion that the government had with the current buyer, which they also formalized, is costing our country the much money I have talked about. So the net proceeds from this sale, if you net out that, is less than that 135 billion shillings. And I've listed one of the license. If you need the names of the other four, I'll give you. In terms of, and the number two laws, Chair, is in terms of waiver, but the number two laws is in terms of period. What do I mean? You see, when you go and take a driving license in Kenya, let's say you take a driving license of 3 years, and then you pay the government of Kenya, I'm just giving for comparison's sake. That's not the amount we pay. Let's say we pay 5,000. You get that, Chair? So you pay for 3 years. So you know it's a government, is a revenue stream for government that we renew our licenses. That's why we are never given driving licenses for life or passports. Because the government anticipates this as also a revenue earner. So you come here, you are given a driving license that was to be for 3 years, you pay 5,000 like everyone else. But another person goes and decides and talks to the government, oh, I'll still pay the fine, please give me still for that period, but I'll pay half the price. Now this is the most heartbreaking thing. We are receiving half the amount for the license, but extending the period of the license from 15 years to 25 years. So we lose number one on the quantum, but we also lose because the government that will be there in the next 15 years will have to wait for 25 years instead of 15 for them to receive revenue from that license again. Ethiopia market, I agree. Honorable, I think, let me combine, still Makila. I had put it in my memorandum. We get clear definition of shareholding. Remember, this transaction is dealing with a group, but the group incorporates also M-Pesa, M-Pesa Africa. It incorporates also Ethiopia. So, at this particular time now, can Kenya know how much stake Kenya owns in Ethiopian operations? Because the shareholders here in the group are not necessarily the ones in Ethiopia as shareholders there. As I go to the finish, I agree with Honorable Makirapo on valuation. Safaricom shares was worth 45 shillings in 2021. The valuation was therefore 1.8 trillion in 2021. A point where so much money was also being reinvested in Ethiopia. The intervening years, the profit went a little down. Why? Because a lot of money was also going into the Ethiopian investment. Now, Chairman, this is the thing. This financial year, up to the first half of, I think September is the half year of Safaricom, they had a 52% increment in profit, bottom line. So we are selling Safaricom based on the previous profits. That's why this deal in Harakishwa. So that by the time Safaricom announces their full year profits, which will be over 52% increment, the deal will have already been done. And I can give you this also, Chairman, because we are here as Kenyans, we will see. This is a teaser. By next year, maybe by the time this committee finishes this, you will see the government saying, oh, we saw some people also saying they also want to buy. What I want to assure you is this. They will also want to sell the 20%. And hold me to my word. Honorable CPA, Ruto, before I come there, this is the other bad thing I think we are doing. Currently, Kenya has borrowed, I don't want to go into the debts. We are now over 12.5, close to 12.5 trillion Kenya shillings in public debt. But, because the mainstream borrowing is squeezed, now we have brought another English terms here. We are calling funds. Chairman, that we are selling Safaricom and selling the other assets to use them as a deposit the way we go to a SACCO. You know the way you go to a SACCO and you are told, we give you 3 times of your savings. That is what the government want to experiment. That even after raising this money, they want to leverage it. They want to borrow multiples of this money. In fact, their plan is to borrow times 9. So you leverage times 1, and then you borrow times 9. So we raise, let's say, 300 billion. But the plan of government is not even the one we are raising. It is the one we are going to borrow in that SACCO in quotes. Chairman, we will not run away from this as a country. Senegal is just a recent example for us to learn from. If you start opening up multiple loan books as a country, it will catch up with you pretty soon. We've already done that in terms of dividend here, that we are imagining as a country, there is no country in the next 5 years. So we need the money for the next 5 years today. And I hear government experts talking about, oh, we have done the present value of this money. When you're in government, you don't do present value of money. You can't, because the government operates in perpetuity. At the very least, you need to do future value of annuity. And the difference is huge. As I finish, Chairman, for CPA Ruto. Again, it is inferior based on valuation. Inferiority of this deal is based on Kenya has been relegated in a corner to canvass for just an air of breath. I mean, you are the owner, and you are being squeezed by the seller. Sorry, you are the owner and you are being squeezed by the buyer. Chairman, one thing will answer this in one bullet. Advertise 15% GOK stake in the international markets. I guarantee you 2.5 trillion Kenya shillings will be too little for the valuation. If you look at 2021, it was 1.8 trillion. So the honorable members, my brothers and sisters who were asked about what my valuation would be, we should not be discussing anything below 45 per share. We should now be discussing about what we have done in Ethiopia, which was not present in 2021, our discussion should be starting from there. But we've been cornered by these guys. We are now gasping for breath on the side of the laws. It is not good. It's not prudent. The other issue, I think is the last one. This issue, we are being treated, these other issues may take time, it is uncertain. So, we are looking for these guys, they are already on the table. Is that a precedent we want to set as a country? That if I identify public land, I go to the ministry and say, I am a buyer here, I am offering this. And then the ministry will justify and say, oh, we have some willing buyer who is already buying at this price. Because that is the reasoning globally. I mean, holistically, if we are permitted now, that, okay, I can go to the treasury tomorrow and say, I want to buy Kenyari. And then they look at the market. Kenyari shares, the valuation is 17 billion shillings as of today. Okay, I tell them, I want to buy at a small premium, I'll pay you 22 billion. And they agree and we sign and I run away with Kenyari. What am I running away with? This is a company which has no loans. Their cash and cash equivalent is 41 billion, and their net assets is 51 billion. We'll be creating oligarchs because we'll just cut corners, take government assets for free, and purport to be the only buyers in the market. Who said there is the only buyer? If I show intention of buying Kenyari, the good thing for the National Treasury to do, in case they want to sell it, put up a bid. Maybe I'm offering 22 billion. Another person will go to the financial statement and see what I have seen. It's in the public domain. And realize, oh my, I'm buying a company at 22 billion. And upon opening the keys of the company, the cash inside and the cash equivalent is 41 billion. So I take the 17, pay them, and I'm left with all the other assets for free. It is a bad precedent, Honorable Chair. Otherwise, the issue of immobilization again, there are issues I'm talking in terms of you may seek information. The shares were immobilized in the first and second week of June of 2025. And the people who immobilized 16 billion shares of Safaricom is none other than our current buyer. And they were doing it so that they struggled the price of Safaricom. And so that the market senses there is an oversupply of the shares, and so that they maintain the share price suppressed until the transaction is done. Otherwise, for all those years, they had never seen the need of immobilizing their shares. So the need came up this year in June. So Honorable Chair, as a close, I want to thank you. And the issue of, again, KCB, sorry, because it repeated itself in terms of the Honorable CPA, Ruto. This issue of KCBs, as I'm repeating, is simple. Just tell them to commit through writing. Now, not in the future now. That yes, we are the TA. But because we actually also own, KCB, remember, even if the government has a minority stake of 19%, they control the entire board. Because the other 81% of the shareholders do not talk to each other. So during the AGM, you vote all your directors using the 19%. So what am I trying to say? Tell them just to do in writing and put in archives whether there is a stockbroker's agent who is also under this transaction. If they are raised, call them and ask them, what role are they playing for them to be paid 40% of the 3 billion? That's the question we need to have. Otherwise, thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro, for appearing before the committee, doing your presentation and submission to the committee, and responding to the members. Mheshimiwa Ruto, we have, time is totally against us. Kindly, if
I can just seek clarification from you.
tafadhali, no.
Yes, not from the witness, but the stakeholder, but from you.
Okay, right.
Reading Article 91, there's a ruling that you made, and I'm still thinking with it. Looking at standing order number 91. Of course, though it refers to a member of parliament, I wanted you to demystify to me the difference between the stakeholder we have, who has introduced himself as Ndindi Nyoro, Office of the Member of Parliament, Kiaru, and what Article 91 is saying in relation to the ruling we made in regards to evidence. Thank you.
91 is substantiation.
I think the honorable member is here as a stakeholder. He did not come here as a member of parliament, and he wrote to the clerk of the National Assembly. That one maybe used it as a headliner, that's what I understand. But as we look at that, he wrote to the National Assembly requesting to come and attend this hearing as a stakeholder, which he did. So I think that, but as a committee, if there's any matter that we feel he needs to come back to clarify and provide more information, we are at liberty to ask him to appear before the committee any given time. So, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro, asante sana. Members, thank you so much for the time, and I think it's best now we break for a quick lunch of maybe 30 minutes. Yes, Mheshimiwa Ndindi?
It's just a closing remark. I think it's polite.
No, Honorable,
Yes.
Honorable Chair, does Honorable Ndindi have any information you would have wished to give us other than in the form of
I think we have gone beyond that, Mheshimiwa Ndindi, and I will just give you an opportunity.
No, I don't know Ndindi.
Mheshimiwa, just 1 minute of closing remark. Don't digress.
Thank you very much, Chair. I am very, very pleased to have appeared before these honorable members. Thank you very much for listening to me and also for Parliament granting me this opportunity. Chairman, from my heart, I believe that we must not operate like what is called a prisoner's dilemma in Kenya. That even the things that should bring us together, they tear us apart. This transaction is Kenya against the buyers. And therefore, let's not see it in terms of lenses, political lenses. If Kenya, I'm here proposing Kenya gets more money. If Kenya gets more money, let's say we get 150 billion more. It means 150 constituencies in Kenya can get an allocation of 1 billion shillings to build roads. 1 billion, over 20 kilometers of road. So I'm doing it in good faith. And I hope that, Chairman, any other information you may need based on this transaction before you close, I'll also provide it in good faith. If Kenya gets more money, we all benefit and Kenya progresses. Thank you very much, members, and I am grateful.
Asante sana. And the time being 15:06, this meeting is officially adjourned. We break for lunch. Let's try and be here at 3:30 so that CBK have been waiting for us for the past hour so that we get on. Asante sana, Bwana Ndindi. Karibu, now you can join us also for lunch. Asante. Thank you so much. No, the meeting has already been adjourned.